Maybe I should actually turn the volume on. Sorry about that. I noticed I was muted. All right. Again, welcome to the stream. A couple minutes late, but I don't think anyone minds too much. Hi to the regulars. Let me just pop out the chat. If anyone is actually here live in the stream and you'd like to direct a comment or a question to be read out, either super chat or put 3 yellow circles before your question, 3 yellow emojis, and I'll be able to answer your question if it's civil or if it's something I can answer. So let me pop out the live chat for a minute, just so I can see all your comments a little better. Talk amongst yourselves, and if you have any questions or comments you would like to ask me, then feel free to do that. Okay. Hi to the regulars. Donna, how are you? Remember, it was daylight savings here in Melbourne, 3 a.m. last night, or this morning in the AM. 3 a.m. this morning, we turned our clocks back 1 hour. So, hey, Boffin, how you going? Hey, Vero, Rocket. Okay, just saying hello to the regulars that pop up. And to the members, Ted1775, how you going? All right, as usual, discussing the interesting comments left under recent videos and streams. I really like the conversation going around. It sort of provides fuel for whether they're discussions I might have. Like, for instance, this one I recently had with Caro and Boffin on my chat channel. I recommend you go take a look at that. We had a discussion about it's all well and good to discuss stuff online, but a lot of people live in their heads so much and online. I know a lot of us kind of live here on our screens, and we can all agree it can tend to be a big problem. Let me mute my phone for the time being. And we kind of live in this world because we can curate it, and we can be very clever, and we can be our own gods. And you talk to friends that yeah, I turned my mic on, Donna. Yeah, so it's just interesting. It's all well and good to figure stuff out in your head online with other people, because don't forget, doing this and talking this way and communicating online, you are having a relationship with yourself, because you can't actually, unless you're actually seeing and hearing someone, you're having a real conversation and you're talking to them, that's better. It's like on a telephone. But even if you're just doing it via VC, voice chat, it's better than just you typing and commenting, because you're making up people and their responses without actually interacting with them. And sometimes we get caught in our own heads, and we are working things out, and we're relating to people, but we're not. We're interpreting what they said. We're inferring what they said through our biases, what we believe. You know how a lot of times people misinterpret someone through text and what they thought they meant, but people have to add smiley emojis after their comments just to make sure people take them the right way, because we close off so much actual communication with a person, actual understanding, actual relating and interpretation of someone else. So that's kind of very interesting. So I recommend go have a listen. It's about just over an hour kind of podcast of us talking about how a lot of the stuff we learn online, it's great, but if you just stay in the loop of online and in your head, you're talking to yourself, confirming your safe biases, and you're kind of locked in this little velvet cage where you actually don't test it to see if it's real. You might have a revelation, but if it's not tested, it's just kind of like an exciting, it would be good if it was nice idea. Okay, I've got a comment here from, let's see. Yes, works. From Bobby Backpacks, he says, first of all, thank you for the super chat, Mr. Backpacks. Catching you from the Philippines. Thanks for the content, human. My girlfriend watches the live streams with me, paying my tuition. Well, thanks, man. It sounds like you're enjoying yourself in the Philippines, or is your wife just from the Philippines? I'm looking at the little emoji of you on the beach. As the title of this stream suggests, I have become much more interested over the recent years of moving beyond, a lot of times rightly pointing out how people treat you badly, what's wrong with the world, what's unfair in terms of dating, where women are entitled. And I will agree with anyone that points to objective reality in that direction. But there's this loop that just keeps circling around that same thing. What I used to really enjoy about the old days of men going their own way was that they would acknowledge that, and that they would choose to go down their own path. A lot of times where other guys didn't necessarily want to go down. Some guys wanted to go left, some wanted to go right, some wanted to be monks and never have anything to do with women socially anymore. They wanted to live in their own little silos, which is fine, as long as it was a healthy conversation. But now it's partly due to, I suppose, social media, the clickbait nature of being extreme. Boring, realistic conversations about real life aren't exciting. They don't get views. You don't get people saying OMG, because a lot of the stuff that frustrates us would be worked out if we had what most would think as banal, ordinary conversations. Most of working out life is in the gray area where it's just normal, pedestrian life conversations, being fair, making the right decision, doing the right thing. People want magic pills. You look at health, it's about eating healthy and, moving around or lifting heavy stuff. Everyone wants some secret formula, some 5-step program. So the boring stuff doesn't really get people excited. Remember, guys, if you would like to ask me a question if you're here live, make sure you either super chat or put 3 bright emojis before your question. Let me see if I can read some of them out. Let's see. Have you had any contact with Rollo Tomasi at all? Would be good to see you debate. I'm not a fan of debates. I don't mind Rollo. I only kind of sneered at the word debate. I'd rather have a conversation. I know much of online. People are looking for truths through debate and antagonizing each other and who wins and who loses. I'm not really interested in that anymore. But yeah, he's a cool guy. If we ever cross paths, I wouldn't be averse to having a conversation with him. Mecca Medina says, are you going to MRA from MGTOW? No, I've never been political. I've always been much more philosophical and personal in sort of the way I want to have conversations. I never had an interest in politics in general, like, the big umbrella of like what other people are interested in, what this party is doing, what the left is doing, what the right is doing, what this group is doing, what that group is doing. Before, when I felt comfortable in MGTOW, it was mostly, and most of MGTOW, the people who were the main proponents and the popular channels and people that were known, they were. It was agreed that everyone was an individual, and we were all kind of discussing in our own way the reality of the world and the best course of action for us and what we wanted to do personally with the information, practically speaking. But now it's just become politics. It's just people are in their silos of political right and wrong and wanting to debate each other. I understand a lot of people are desperate and they feel like there needs to be that kind of fight, that political fight, because the world has become political. But I've always found a lot of my own personal happiness in life is in, my little kind of personal bubble, how I can think, how I can relate to the people around me, the choices I can make, and the kind of the external political thing and the world and everything. I will give the residue once I've, as Jordan Peterson says, made my own bed. Then I give the excess to that. I'm happy to discuss the rest of it, but I don't live out there. That's what I want to say. I don't live out in politics. I live here in my daily routines and, how I can make choices and things like that. But no, I don't really, I'm not a group person. I'm happy talking amongst groups and amongst individuals, but I don't put on the group hat. I'm sort of not political or religious or anything like that. I'm happy talking about the sensible things within those discussions, but when it just becomes my football team against your football team and why my football team is better, I really don't have much interest in that. All right, so basically, I'm interested in what have you learnt about yourself, not merely about women. And the reason why I touch on women so often is because I've had the biggest frustrations with women, like not with friends, not with family members generally, things like that, but because if you do engage in relationships, they are where you can relate the most honestly, and if you don't, you suffer the most. So if you can relate honestly, and if you self-reflected, and if you can be the best parts of you and the most honest version of you in a relationship, I don't think you have really much of a problem anywhere else. Your ability to deal with the world and the stresses of the world are really, really minimized, and most of them just kind of go in my experience. And that's why I always give the very relatable example of relationships. And everyone's kind of like, wow, you're always talking about women in relationships. Well, from a hetero guy's point of view, when I have wrestled that beast and not them per se, but my own understanding and the way I relate to women and dating and, myself, not them, but myself, how I'm going to do the dance, my rules, my boundaries, my ethics, my morals and my values, and what I stand for within those. It's not just, oh, please, can I be your boyfriend? Oh, please, give me some nookie and things like that. It's kind of moving beyond that and seeing, how do I want to live with or without a woman? And if it is with a woman, what's the very specific woman that matches the values that I'm looking for, which is related to who I am and my values. Yeah, Richard comments, I'll put his comment up actually, because someone was asking me about having a conversation with Rollo. He says, great response. Conversations tend to be more constructive for everyone than debates. I think I'll give you a pass on the spelling. I'm guessing it was autocorrect. Some of the comments because my last video has kind of really done fairly well. I spent a lot of time on it. I wanted it to do well. I want to spend more time curating a better video and not just producing a weekly, soup can out of the sausage, out of the factory. on the production line. So I just want to take time now. I want to make regular weekly streams, which is fine. We can discuss whatever's important, and I enjoy doing this. But I don't want to produce videos every week like Campbell soup cans off the production line. You know, I want to make videos, give them the time that's needed, so that it gets across to not just preaching to the choir, but the last video did really well, and hopefully it's reached a lot more people, people that maybe wouldn't have watched it, people that sit through it and get what I'm talking about. The thing that amazes me and frustrates me a lot, which I need to get better at getting less frustrated with, was, you know, the last video is me basically ruminating on my thoughts on, you know, how I went about dating, what I've learned, and people still are mathematically focused. They don't want to have a human conversation. They don't want to listen to someone just describing what they've learned, who they are, and how they're going to conduct themselves better. They see the title, I survived 30 years of dating, and I say what I've learned from that, and their response is, well, he didn't tell me what he learned. There are no bullet pointed answers. It's like, well, if you go into things wanting what you want and hearing what you hear, and you don't want to listen to me, it's not my fault because I think I explained conversationally, I explained where I was coming from in that video. But if you want certain types of answers in videos like mathematics, it's not that kind of video. I didn't make a video saying the 4 answers I came up with, or the 4 things I learned, or whatever it might be. I didn't. I basically had a conversation of what I've learned over the many years of dealing with women and failed relationships, what I learned about myself. And that's what I wanted to have a conversation about here. Hey, Karu, how you going? Some of the comments, some of the more sensible comments, the people that understood the conversation I was trying to impart on that video, and what I'm trying to do in this on my channel, which again, I know it's my problem. You know, 99% of the people that are on my channel and the commenters, you guys are great. The 1% just rub me the wrong way when I'm on a bad day, but on the good day, I'm fine to ignore them. Quaz, he left a message, a really interesting and a really good comment under the last video. He said, relating is a skill. It must be learned. Most are unconscious of this reality and never bother to develop it. Some of us are forced simply by circumstances. It can be quite the rabbit hole. Of course, it would be well to add to the comment that if relating is a skill and learning it takes effort, there's basically zero chance that conventionally attractive women in today's consequenceless environment would ever recognize the need or undertake the effort unless they are very exceptional and their circumstances are too. That's a very astute comment, and I wanted to repeat it here because that's important. The way guys believe that all women are the same, and we know what the environment's like, and women are sort of, the average woman out there is very entitled. They don't self-reflect because they don't have to. They're always princesses. If relating is a skill and it takes effort, there is basically zero chance that the conventionally attractive woman in today's consequenceless environment would ever recognize the need for her to make any kind of effort and self-reflect. And that's very important. Why would someone who is told they don't have to do any work, they don't have to reflect, they're perfect from birth, and it's the fault of every male out there to not recognize her queenness? Why would royalty, who's told they're royalty and confirm their royalty and never have to lift a finger and it's never their fault, why would they believe that they need to put in effort? Why would you, if you're born rich, what would make you, unless you just kind of had some sort of, you know, lottery winning epiphany that you wanted to go into the slums and deal with the everyday person, why would you want to stop being driven in Rolls Royces and have everything you wanted? You never have to lift a finger. Why would you? Realistically, why would you? And it's a very astute comment. Like, why would someone in today's consequenceless environment, why would they want to undertake the effort of trying to relate to someone in a real way? Why would you want to? Rather than everyone is shopping. They were fun for a second, bored. They were fun for a second, they're not bowing at my feet, bored, next. And you have an endless procession of next. Realistically, if you were born as some rich little princess in like, why would you? And in your bubble, you probably don't even see another way. So you have to intentionally stop relating in the princess world. However fun they look, how much like it might take an effort for a second, but I've noticed that if you kind of just take that hard first step to kind of say, no, not going down that street, and you take a few steps down the other street, it's not very sexy, but it's kind of, there's a lot of tranquility there. There's a lot of tranquility in going monk as well and not dealing with women at all. But say you're curious enough or you're honest enough with yourself to say, I would like companionship. I don't need it, but I'm leaving that narrow passage open for the right person, and barely anyone, goes down that passage that's made for me. I'm fine with that, but I'd rather deal with someone who's sane. The very, very few people that would be human beings that I can have a conversation with would even want to sort of join me in that narrow hallway. Just be fine with it. What do you want? A sea of crazy people that you keep rotating for a second, that disappoint you, that drive you nuts? Or do you want your own peace of mind and you come across a couple of rare people here and there that force you to actually be real? Because don't forget, in that sea of crazy people, you don't actually really have to show who you are because you get torn apart. You do. So it's natural that people put on macho masks. It's natural that in this sea of crazy, everyone would rather just put on the macho outfit of Andrew Tate and be an alpha and all of that sort of stuff, because everyone's going to laugh at you and put their boot on your neck, and women won't want you and stuff like that. But it's like, do you want the crazy world, or would you rather have a peaceful world with people that get you and you get them? But at the same time, you've got to learn to relate as well. You've got to stop learning to relate with a mask. Now you've got to actually relate and have a much quieter and simpler world. Psychedelic cruises, he says, human are still looking for a relationship. Why are you done with women? I'm not looking for a relationship anymore because it's not for me anymore in my mid-50s now. Like, I get it. I mentioned a few times, like I stopped looking in my mid-40s, I'd say, to late 40s, because I just didn't know how to do it any other way, in a way that I could live with myself anymore. I can't put on the mask. You listen to some of these fools that you look at them, you listen to them, and you look at the people they're dating, and it's like, I can't pretend to like those people that they're dating. I can't pretend to quack like a duck just to be around ducks. Like, I'm not that animal anymore. Like, if I think, like, the people I'm friends with, I have conversations with, that I enjoy being around, I need to find similar people, not exactly the same. I know men and women are different, but people cut from a similar cloth in some way, in some range. I want to be able to talk with the women that I would be able to date. If I can't, then I'm fine, but at least my metrics are reasonable and realistic. I find it insane that guys who might want to talk about this sort of stuff and they get really inspired and alive and they talk about maths and science and philosophy and psychology, and sort of they find a lot of color in life with these kind of conversations, and then they have to switch it off and be a 12-year-old clueless teenager chasing women with their tongues out and say, well, I have to adopt that mode because all women are like that. It's like, they're not. Well, and I'm not saying there are an abundance out there. Like, they're very rare, and I'm not saying you need to chase them. I'm saying you need to be, I would rather be, like I was, very realistic that the average woman out there is complete trash for a relationship with me, especially. Like, I need to be able to talk to her. I need her to be reasonable to some degree. Otherwise, I'm not going to spend any time with them. I'm done. You know, you need to be reasonable about what you can tolerate anymore. And that's where I got. Now, that's not saying that, oh, well, humans chasing unicorns. I wasn't chasing unicorns anymore. I just became real with my standards and realistically saying, well, I'll probably be alone for the rest of my life, or the chances of meeting someone are going to be few and far between. Not just because of my standards now that they're more realistic. They're not kind of like stratosphere in the stratosphere, but my standards are like for a reasonable, nice human being. And that's very rare. And I know that the chances of me meeting someone like that are going to be very rare. I want guys to think clearer, speak clearer, have more grounded, realistic, reasonable standards of how they're going to relate to people, their own world, their own psychology first and foremost. If your psychology becomes kind of like your own, your own kind of Andrew Tate in your own world with your own small group of friends, you'll barely be able to say hello and thank you and be polite at the supermarket with the average person. Can you meet strangers halfway? Are you able to relate with people that, even if you don't have to have a relationship with them, but do you know what I'm trying to say before I go on too much of a rant? Bankster Rap says, if in life we're dealt the cards and we have to play the hand that we're dealt to the best of our ability, what sort of person would you be if you had been dealt a really good hand? Interesting question. Yeah. What if I was dealt a hand like a rich entitled princess as a male in that world? What if I was born as one of Andrew Tate's kids? I don't know. I can't say that I'd be the same person. Your environment plays a big hand in it, as does your biology. You'd probably be a very different person. Why would you need to be anything else if you're conditioned that way? Especially if you look at the average person out there on Instagram and like they're a mess psychologically. Everyone's got a therapist. And if you're literally speaking, you're above that. You're one of Andrew Tate's kids, right? What's attractive when you look at the masses of hysterical idiots? Why would you want to be among them? Why? Why would you want to leave that world? Like, you look at your life, you look at the conversations you can have, you look at the intelligent conversations you can have with more literate people with a better vocabulary that are more realistic. As a guy, there's more stable structure in your world. Things make sense, and you look at the mass of lobotomized idiots around you in the middle of the bell curve, average society, like spurging out online. Realistically speaking, which world would you rather be in? The way the average person on there speaks, on the conversations online. I would rather be in a rich community than let's be logical. Let's be philosophically and rigorously and sensibly logical. The way most people are now, online especially, but even offline, their vocabulary, like how stupid people act, how impolite, how they cut you off in traffic, in shopping centers, how their kids are screaming and they don't say anything. Just how the average person is. Where would I rather be? I would rather be in a rich gated community just for my peace of mind and tranquility. Because the average person out there, and again, I'm not just talking about the average women, but they're a product of the average society, just like average men out there, is like, where would you rather be? Good morning, Adam Super AC. Remember, guys, if you would like to ask a question, I'll change this from top chat to live chat. If you would like to ask a question, Either super chat me if you are here live, or add 3 yellow emojis. Okay, Ted asks, human, what about shit tests? How do you handle them? Well, when you're aware of them, you don't have to handle them. Put it this way, if this is a thing, you learn this knowledge, say, in the manosphere, right? But then this is what I talk about, the hypocrisy of then you see a woman shit testing you in real life and you say nothing, you do nothing, you go on the second date, you don't tell her that you're aware of it, you don't reflect it back on her and say like, yeah, but what about you? What if I gave it back to you? You do nothing. There's no point of being aware of it, and you just go along in your same autopilot, and it's, well, a guy has to act like that and put up with the tests. I don't handle them. I have to ask myself, am I going to put up with that? Can I live? And again, what a shit test for you is might not be a shit test for someone else, or it might be kind of a mild annoyance. So a shit test for one guy might be, I have to watch a romantic movie with her, and, you know, I have this rule, I don't. She has to be completely in my frame, and it's all about my life, and she's a passenger. It's nothing about her. That's how I feel stable and good with a relationship. So people's boundaries, people's limits with women are slightly different, but I think we can all agree on the extremes. When people treat you really badly, where they wipe their ass with you, where it's a one-way street relationship, that's the obvious one. So quite simply, I don't handle shit tests. I talk about them conversationally. If I notice something that makes me feel uncomfortable, I don't sit with discomfort. I either disengage or I try and ask myself why I feel uncomfortable. And usually if you investigate why something makes you feel uncomfortable, why someone makes you feel uncomfortable, why something they said or their values make you feel uncomfortable, it's because they don't align with yours. And you need to process those and verbalize them back. You can't stay quiet. So I process them, but as quickly as I can, if I notice they're a test, I verbalize it straight back to them. If it's not fair, I give them the same back and see if they like it. And I'm not playing a game. I'm like, be aware of it and then know what it is and decide what you're going to do about it. Big OL says, are you cynical over love? The typical romantic love out there, yes. It's gone far beyond like innocent Hallmark greeting cards of, you know, romantic movie kind of love. It's gone beyond that. And now it's kind of like modern romantic movies for women is basically, she acts terrible. She's the worst kind of chick, but she's pretty. But to take away the prettiness, right? She's really awful, and a 10 out of 10 guy just tolerates it because he just loves her and he has eyes for her. You look at modern movies like romantic movies like Dear John and The Notebook, and they're romantic, yeah, I can see why women like it, but it's basically a man tolerating a woman far beyond what a woman would tolerate from a guy. Like in a lot of the most romantic movies that women like today, switch places with the woman, right? Put a guy in that spot, a woman would walk out in 5 seconds at the first part of the movie. She wouldn't tolerate it. And most women and guys will say, yeah, I understand. Like, yeah, I feel sorry for that person, but, you know, it's not your job to be a babysitter. They're basically a person with a massive handicap, and you're Mother Teresa trying to love them. But for women, the romantic movies are basically the worst kind of woman that can do anything, and a man loves her regardless. And that's proof of love for her. That's real love. No matter what he does, no matter how insane she acts, he can't stop hugging her and letting her go. So it's kind of like the worst little daughter, the worst little princess, and the father will love her no matter what. It's not a good script. Am I cynical? A little bit, if I'm honest. I'm very cynical about love, just because of how most women out there act. I've tried different tactics. I mean, you look at my videos. I'm as open-minded as I can be, up until the point of being able to live with my own, you know, having self-respect. and being embarrassed of how I'm being treated by somebody, and your family members saying, "What are you doing? You're just kind of you're a toilet for this person." Beyond that point, I think I'm very even-handed and I'm very fair. But it gets to the point that people say, "Dude, are you insane? What's wrong with you? You're a doormat." I have to be able to sleep with myself. I'm a I One big thing that my family showed me growing up was observable, and also they taught us was fairness. Men and women are different, but in terms of how someone treats you when you take away men and women, just fair behavior, what is fair between human beings, reciprocity, fair conversations, talking, listening, the balancing of those scales, just relationally between people, and even environmentally between things. Don't litter because there's consequences. Your community becomes dirty. Pleases and thank yous, just a lot of those balancing effects in life. I learned from my family, but also in terms of intimate relationships, they were important too. I've been using my Canon mirrorless the last two streams because of the different look. You get the background blurred a bit more and the autofocus is a little bit better. Any more comments, guys? Remember, if you would like to ask me a comment during this, where am I pointing? During this live stream, either super chat me or put 3 yellow emojis before your question. Yes. Andrew said, thought you recently said you had a relationship. I do, but the question was, am I actively looking for love? Or am I jaded? They're different questions. Am I jaded in love? How do I think about the average relationship? I'm in a relationship, but I'm not looking, obviously. Also, I encourage you guys to have a listen to the chat we had. We discussed some of these things, but mainly around this central topic of if you spend too much time online, you develop a narrative in your head about what relationships are and who you are. It might not be very compatible out there if you're trying to date or just relate to people. You might not have very many friends because you're creating a fictional world of who you are and how you relate to people just by sitting alone and kind of just reading comments and talking in an empty vacuum. You need to kind of touch grass and see people's facial expressions and have conversations, even if it's just, voice chats online. I encourage people to have real conversations with people, even if it's just with a microphone, but the best is out there. And I realize some people might be lonely. They don't have friends and whatever. They don't have a lot to choose from, but I think they're the healthiest. And I think most people would agree. Yeah, this is true too. Like William says, maybe we can't find sane and like-minded people because they're becoming extinct. Yeah. Big Ol says, I know an older man, 70s, who married his second option. He has a PhD and he's super interested in concepts. She never shared that. She likes TV. I can see him light up when we talk about philosophy. Yeah. Well, look, if you're the kind of person that gets excited, like he gets excited about stuff that wouldn't be dysfunctional. But the majority of people out there, I think they have a hard time with relationships because they like the exciting dysfunctional stuff in reality TV. They like seeing couples tear each other apart, cheating, fighting. And if that's where they like to occupy themselves, that's where they're entertained, that's what stimulates them, then you're going to be bored with a relationship that's functional because that is boring by comparison. There's no drama. It's consistent and it lasts because it's predictable. There's not much change. There's no drama. Whereas the PhD guy and what our parents had, they had consistency. Relationships didn't need to be as drama filled as their entertainment today. And that's the challenge today. You have to actively want to step away from the drama, the high octane kind of view of relationships. It's the same with guys who just watch porn online continually. And that's exciting. And that's their bar of getting to the bedroom. But those extremes, don't forget, those moments are very small parts of relationships. But if your extremes are just high octane, clickbaity, extreme sort of things, you're going to be bored with normal relationships with people, with friendships, with, like, you're going to want debates. Even with your friends, you're going to want to fight on sort of those podcast levels where everyone's shouting all over each other and the volume goes up and everyone kind of has gotcha moments where, you got destroyed by this person. Someone has to win. Someone has to lose. I want tranquility. I want peace. I don't like drama. And look, this guy, if he married his second option, he made the choice. Look, you can't be unrealistic in your standards. The chances of him meeting a PhD in his field on his standard is very, very, very low. It's like Bigfoot in terms of like finding the opposite in the opposite gender to you, because women are very, very different as a baseline. On top of that, are you looking for a mirror or someone that you can realistically be able to enjoy spending time with in the opposite sex? So again, you have to kind of determine what you really need and where you're exaggerating. I've heard some guys, their list of what they absolutely need in a woman makes my eyes kind of go, yeah, really? Well, good luck. That's going to be impossible. Like, sometimes one of them is hard enough, but well, good luck. You're really passionate about that. But then they have 4 impossible standards. And it's the same with these women that want, rather than like, I want a guy with a 6-pack. Okay. No, he's got to have a 6-pack. He's got to be a billionaire or a millionaire. He's got to have this. Like, okay, you just he's got to be over 6'1". It's like over 6 foot tall, I think, is only about, what is it, like single digits of the population? And then you keep adding all these extra high benchmarks. And it's like, you're not going to find anyone. You've just, in a very predictable way, you've guaranteed you're going to stay single and complaining that men are the problem because your standards are so high that virtually no man, because there is some luck with you coming across a person, but the chances of that standard of person coming across you and you're a 5 or a 7 or a 3, but you don't want a 10, you want a 20. Well, good luck. Alex McClay, thank you very much for the super chat. I think Donna super chatted me as well. Thanks for that too. He says, men in women's movies are horrible people too. Edward Cullen, Christian Grey, the guy from The Notebook. We go to prison if we acted like that in real life. Yeah, we would. No one would love you. Everyone would no one would want to be your friend. No one would be around you. Donna says, yeah, Donna, I actually gave him a shout out. He messaged me his new channel a few weeks ago. I want to have maybe have a chat with him soon. I messaged him, but I haven't heard back from him. He must be actually living life in the real world, which is good for him. But yeah, he's around. He opened up a new channel, so go check out his new channel. He did another one of his walking, talking, ruminating conversations where he just talks about life. I really like that. It's like you're kind of hanging out with him on a phone call as he's going for a walk. Any questions, guys, if you want to ask me during this chat, if you're here live, super chat me or put 3 bright emojis before your question. Loco says, how do you do? I'm good. How are you? Karu says to Quaz, there are a couple of things that have been lost with the intellectualization of relationships. The concept of good enough for me and enjoy life, good and bad. Yeah, we touched on that. That was I think that'd be a good discussion or a video. People are wanting 10 out of 10 without reflecting on who they are, what they can give, if they can dance with a 10 out of 10 themselves. Because a 10 out of 10 needs to dance with another 10 out of 10. It's like someone who dances a certain dance really well and you know nothing about it, but it looks good and you want to dance with them. They're going to have a terrible time with you because you're going to step all over their feet and they're going to drag you around. It's going to get boring very quickly. And the concept of good enough for me is an important one. It's not that you're lowering your standards, but you're being realistic. Like, what is important for me? You know, that's what's good for me. And the term good enough, the enough thing for me is a realistic way of thinking. Good for me, people have, oh, well, what's good for me is a 10 out of 10. What's good enough? If you're an average person, that's good enough. And that's enough for you. But if you, like, again, let's be frank here, a lot of women that reject guys, and I've talked to a few of them that they've said no to marriage proposals that they now regret when they're 40s and no one's asking them out anymore. They thought they could always go for better. Like, what is enough for you? Because today we're all pushed to go for more and better and more expensive, and we're always kind of shopping our way up, monkey branching our way up and shopping for people. At what point do you reflect and go, who am I? What's enough for me? You know, how many cars is enough for you? Do you always need a better house? Yeah, there's something about growing and getting better and moving forward in life. But what's enough for you? What's compatible with you? When I hear enough, good enough, I hear compatible. I hear level-headedness. I hear being able to choose something that's enough that I can actually spend time with and enjoy. But everyone's always monkey branching for more and never actually choosing anything and sitting with it long enough to enjoy life, months and years, and sort of knowing what it is. You know, aspire. It's fine. The human condition to aspire and do better is fine. But if you're never choosing and you're never experiencing life and you're never actually having relationships, quality ones over time, like if you can never hold friends for very long, who do you have as a friend you can call and trust and feel good that they got your back and they can move a couch with you if you need to move, if you need them? If you're always recycling friends and if you're sort of moving pieces on your chessboard continually, I know that we need to move forward. And I've talked about this where you realize where you've moved past where you were. You don't want to just recycle the 20-year-old version of you. You want to grow, right? But you don't want to just keep burning bridges and then later on you say, oh, boo-hoo, I can't go back over that bridge that I burnt if you were in your 20s and you rejected someone that now you regret rejecting. These are the lessons you need to be realistic about. So the good enough concept, I think, is an important one for a lot of people who are delusional, that it's fine to say, well, I just want the best. It's like, well, are you the best as well? Or are you within the range where you can get the best? And some women, by dint of just being pretty and attractive, they think, well, yeah, a millionaire, I can snag a millionaire. Yeah, you can snag him for a night. And a lot of these women that, you know, they can get a millionaire that might bang you in the bathroom of a nightclub for a night and say, well, I got him. It's like, no, but he's not going to introduce you to his friends or family. He's definitely not going to marry you. And he might have a relationship on the side with you. But how many, if you can really get this person, it's if you can stay with them, if they have a relationship with you, if they're not embarrassed of you, if they can introduce you to their family and friends. Are you are you interesting enough? So the good enough concept for me is really kind of making you reflect, what's good enough for me? What can I actually choose instead of the treadmill of more and different? Look, you get to the point of you're tired of shopping and choosing. You can get a bright and shiny thing for 5 seconds. And it feels like you start to get disappointed over time and time again. It's like, look at all these pretty things I went out with over and over again, and all of them were awful. Pretty awful things that were never compatible with me. Maybe for someone else, but not for me. It's kind of like you're always test driving what look like Ferraris, and at the end of the day, you're always handing the keys back, and someone else drives that car off, and you just drive another shiny car. Or what you think is a shiny car. And he's like, I'm tired of handing the keys back. Like that process is like, I just want one. You know, if I have to wait, I'll wait. If I don't get a car, I don't get a car. But I'm tired of like this disappointment. Here's the carrot, we take it away from me. Here's the carrot, we take it away from me. I'm tired of wasting my time. I don't want to hand the keys back. I'll be patient. I'm tired of test driving cars that I look back on like snapshots and it's like, oh, well, I drove a Ferrari once. I drove this car. It was pretty cool, but what's the point? Like, I just want to have a car I can always drive and it's there, both practically and it's mine and I love it. That's it. But you'll get a lot of the chicks saying, you're comparing me to a car. Like, if you don't understand the analogy of what a person finds important, I can't help you. Yeah, so if you want, stay a shiny object that people shop. Yeah, keep being the shiny new Ferrari that guys test drive. And guys, keep test driving those shiny new Ferraris and handing the keys back to another guy. Keep doing it. Have fun. I don't care. Anyway, Peter, related to the last video, he says, I think there is a danger with high body count for men as well. You enter the hypergamy loop and it's hard to pair bond. Yes, I agree. Ties into what I just talked about. I was sick of it. At what point do you get sick of the same old thing? How delusional can you get where you've been doing the same thing for decades and you're dating the same kind of women, or you're doing the same kind of thing, or you're in the same business, you're running the same business and you're barely above water and it's going nowhere. How long do you keep doing the same thing and it doesn't feel good and it's getting you nowhere? At what point do you say, no, that's it, I'm changing. I'm changing the way I do things. Or do you keep saying, well, it's luck. Everyone else is failing and delusional in the same way, so I'm not alone. The bad thing about this ND filter, it's a built-in ND filter on the side of this camera that makes it very, very hard to get the white balance correct. Paul says, it's an older video, not that old, the most overlooked part of dating advice. He says, to get beyond the shell, to find the pearl inside, you have to be willing to actively listen to the women you are dating. It's the only way to understand if they are truly compatible with you. Then you need the courage to walk away if their values and way of life don't match with your own. You deserve love, but so do they. If you catch a woman that isn't compatible, then put her back in the water and cast a line out for the one that's a better fit. Yes. The ability to not believe what your mother and all the women in your life that you do respect tell you that, oh, you know, you're just choosing wrongly because women are wonderful. Women think they're great. All of them think they're wonderful. You have to, it's simultaneously not believing all the women you think are okay and that you trust and that you want. You have to mistrust the thing that you're trying to trust initially to be able to neutrally listen to them on dates, see if they contradict themselves. You know, the chick that says like, I'm so nice. I don't know why I can't find a nice guy. And then, you know, take it with a grain of salt, try and believe what she says, but then observe her. Don't just listen to what she says. And then you see if she's rude, if she's got a short temper. Patiently observing and like listening to what she says and how she acts. But patience with guys, we want to believe everything she says, and we want to believe the screensaver that women put in front of us because we're attracted to them. We're just ready to love them in a split second. We have to resist that urge. And again, it's not to let women off the hook, but it's basically to lessen the amount of heartbreak us guys have and to lessen the time we waste from a lot of slick saleswomen out there. Let's see. Remember, guys, you want to ask a question, super chat, or 3 bright emojis before your comment to me. Paul also commented on a different video I did, 4 tactics of horrible women. He said, you've just described women that have narcissistic and antagonistic personality styles. If any man is in a relationship with this kind of woman, they must leave and leave now. Women who engage in these behaviors and tactics will never change. When they were young, they went through some kind of trauma that created a false self that they use now to engage with the world. If you stay with a woman like this, then you are trying to love a mirage. The same applies if a woman is trying to love a man that does the same kind of thing. The only choice you have is to leave. You cannot capitulate, otherwise you lose something very valuable, which is yourself. Whether it's the macho guys that get conditioned by like a lot of the online PUA, you know, crafting yourself as this kind of heroic, I don't want to bring up Andrew Tate because I'm sure he's authentic. He's more of a realistic version of that, but I don't know too many people that are kind of that cartoonish hero. But like, if you manufacture this fast talking granite version of you that talks at people and not with people, you're only there on your own in a relationship. And I think guys and girls who put on this act, this mask, where they don't want to lower it and just be the way they are with their family and friends, you have to be very wary of them. But that was a very astute comment from Paul, that a lot of these people, they went through a really bad moment when they were kids growing up with an ex, and so that they never had that happen to them again, they put on this protective barrier. And it's rational because you don't want to be hurt again by that same sort of person. So it's kind of like automatic. I'll act this way. I'll put on this mask because, it's a mask in front of the real me. So I'm still turning up, but you don't realize how thick that mask is. A person actually can't see through it. And the more you are hurt, the thicker the mask is and the less of you that they can actually see, because it comes through with the words that you say, the words that you don't say, your avoidance and things like that. Brett says about an older video I did, modern women aren't fun to be with. He says, it's true about the sense of humor. I talked about in the video that a sign that women are anxious and haven't dealt with a lot and they're not going to be fair is that they don't have a sense of humor. You can't joke with them by making fun of them. Like, your girl should be able to say, oh, you doofus or something in a joking way where you know them and trust them enough that you can laugh at each other without taking it personally. Women that have no sense of humor about themselves, I would be very, very wary about. He says, most women look down at you when you are upbeat. It's like you're making fun of them. That's an interesting comment. A lot of people who are bitter and angry and you're always walking on eggshells, if you're happy, if you don't take the bait, if you don't want to argue all the time, like I get a lot of people who are antagonistic in the comment section. If you're happy, or if you're trying to be happier or more positive, or if you just don't, unless there's a good reason to be negative on the road to understanding the negativity so that then you can take forward steps into a better way of living. In the last couple of years, people have criticized me for being more positive, like I've gone back to the plantation or something. But I'm tired of the misery loves company thing. I'll talk with you about the unfairness out there, sure. But if it's all about negative, and the world's against me and women are always like this, it's like, well, what are you going to choose now? What are you going to do about that? How are you going to date? If you don't want to date, how are you going to live? How are you going to think? What's your conversation like? Have you recorded yourself in conversation and listened back to how negative you are? And just imagine that lexicon, that vocabulary on a date. Why would anyone want to lower their guard to you with a defensive vocabulary of like victimhood and the world's against me and all that kind of garbage? Like, if you can talk about it fairly and calmly from a kind of stoic, non-defensive point of view, I can engage and lower my defenses. But if you've got your defenses up, there's nothing for me to see. I can't get close to you. Like, I'm going to be protecting myself against that kind of conversation as well. Yeah, Crummy BCR says, good people are hard to come by. Honest people are harder and reliable people are a very rare gem. At one point, do you realize what they have cultivated around them is already truly great? At one point, do you realize what they have cultivated around them is already truly great? I don't understand the last sentence. Ted says, as I approach mid-century of life, I'm exhausted with how women play hard to get. So was I, man. I told you by my mid-40s, I was done. I was just tired. I didn't have any fuel left in the tank for those kind of games. As Patrice O'Neill said, you get these old, used up battle axes still kind of trying to act sexy and saying, come and get it. Patrice O'Neill described them as an old box of open crackers. And it's like, throw it on the floor. Stop acting like you're a 20-year-old that can still do that dance and be provocative. You're not provocative anymore. You either throw me at, like, either I can have you at a discount price and you're not that special, but stop trying to relive your 20s. I can't. A guy looks stupid when he's, a guy in his midlife with his shirt open at a club trying to look sexy. He looks foolish. And a lot of these women, they look just as foolish, but they don't want to be criticized for it. Yeah, I got exhausted as well. There are better things to do in life than sort of try and dance as a 20-year-old, pretending that you haven't learned anything. Jordan says, do you think there will be any coming back from the damage that Tinder has done to the modern day? I don't care. And it's not me being dismissive. The more you can get to the point of, I don't care what they're doing. The only thing I care about is the people I choose that prove that I can trust them and be with them. They're good to be around. All I care is how they treat me. The world itself, like what all women out there, politics, the clickbait stuff, like, oh, did you see what they said? I don't care. Oh, did you see what the chick on Married at First Sight and the reality thing? I don't care. I don't watch train wrecks anymore. I stopped slowing down for car crashes. Yeah, it's horrific, but I don't care. Like, what idiots do with each other, I don't care anymore. If you can be sensible, if you're tired of it too, and you want to join me in a discussion that's moving forward, I'm happy to talk with you. But if people are saying, well, let's look at the train wrecks and the reality TV and let's really look at it and just waste our time trying to analyze it, what is the point? It grows the more you look at it. Take the light away from that and it just becomes dark. So I don't really have much time. Skateboarding is interesting too, but I'm not going to spend my time there. I'm just going through some of the questions here. Kung Fu Joe says, I have a lack of empathy. So a different point of view. I love my life and I always ask men in a relationship what they give up and what they get in return. Well, it should be a nice feedback loop. Like, again, everyone's standards of what they want, because everyone's slightly different. Like, and in a lot of ways, you're hugely different. Like if you're a homebody introvert, it's very different from a gregarious extrovert. So just structurally, like that's a massive difference that even doesn't take into account particularly how you're an introvert. But yeah, in your world, with your own self-understanding of who you are, again, why I say self-reflection is really good. Know who you are, know what you want, know what your boundaries are, know what kind of person you are that is compatible with what other kind of people. Stop trying to fit yourself in with people that just don't match you and they only match you for a short period of time for fun and then you leave. Stop dating women, trying to find women like the way you go on holiday. Going on a holiday is refreshing for a few weeks, but then you want to go home. And like trying to live on holidays where guys get frustrated, and women too, especially when they date bad boys. They're dating on holiday, trying to make the bad boy a life partner. Just the guy says there's a downside of remaining single, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's realistically the worst case scenario. No. I think with the trash out there, with the lack of fair, reasonable people and how cruel and they get off on it, I think a baseline of remaining single is a very, very sensible way to be. But also if there's a chance you come across friends or someone who you might be able to be romantically involved with, like the opposite sex, like what does that look like, and have very firm standards, like a very reasonable range of the kind of person that would fit into that. Just be very sensible about that. And don't delude yourself that you can fit a square peg into a round hole. Be very realistic about who you are and what's reasonable. Like I said, it's not, for me, it became a high bar just to find someone who was a nice girl, who you could talk to, who could be somewhat accountable and just didn't get triggered and who wasn't entitled. Like, no one likes that. Everyone makes videos about that because we know how stupid it is. And most people out there are like that. They're 5-year-olds. Like, have a standard stop having standards to deal with 5-year-olds, have standards to deal with adults, and don't apologize for it. Don't have them too extreme, like people who want 10 out of 10 and they're 5s, but have realistic, reasonable adult standards, because most people, unfortunately, can't even meet those, but they're realistic. That will last, if at all. Some of these questions, guys, what do I think about the political climate, both in the manosphere, blah, blah, blah. I don't know much about. I'm not sure what'll happen with the manosphere, what'll happen with women, what'll happen with feminism, what'll happen with left and right and blah, blah, blah. It's too stochastic. I don't know. Alonzo says, human, this sounds so chauvinistic. I have never gone out with a woman who can cook. This is bizarre. Most men I know in my 50s cook more than women. Why? I don't know. I have been a better cook than almost every woman I've gone out with. I don't know. Why? Maybe the upbringing, interests. Women are kind of given the message not to. It's not important. If you do, other women probably laugh at you. I can just imagine women growing up in school and stuff, just in front of your friends. You can't even admit that you like to do stuff as traditional women did. To admit that you just want to stay at home, or you just want to, your favorite hobby is cooking maybe. You would get trampled by other women in your group, let alone men later that you're trying to date. So you get conditioned that you don't even want to be interested in cooking, so that by the time you become an adult, you don't have the skills of cooking, because you were destroyed by your girlfriends in school. Like, the messaging out there is to become a boss bitch and become a career-driven woman, basically become useless to a man so you don't need a man. And then later you scratch your head why it's hard for men to love you, not just because of your attitude, but you don't actually have any skills. You have no skills by which to show a man that you care. You can barely make a sandwich, and you're resistant to even making him a sandwich, because you've had it in you that, like, a man will take care of you. The moment you make him a sandwich, he's going to take advantage of you. Sorry. He's going to take advantage of you the moment you do something for him. But the stupid thing is, like, you'll go to bed with him and spread your legs for him, but that's not him taking advantage of you. That's being empowered. So for me, it's really stupid. I would think that just doing a kind gesture for him, like making him a sandwich or cleaning or doing some sort of housework if you're living together, that would be you showing and contributing to showing how you love someone, like the give and take in a relationship. But I don't know. I would hate to be a woman in today's climate, because the friends I'd try to make and wouldn't be able to make with women, if I had my brain, kind of my reasonable, fair brain, and then like the hard work of actually learning some kind of reciprocal skills to be able to have in a relationship to offer something, like human skills. Siri Silva says, people recycle traumas and bond instead of actually healing and connecting. Misery loves company. Yes, misery does love company. And a lot of people connect over the same kind of traumas and think it's love. Oh, we're compatible over our past traumas. It's like, that's not a great bond, because what you see as love and what your bond is made of is trauma. And yeah, barely surviving. You didn't bond over the good point in your life. You bond over where you both had horror stories. It's like two guys. I got punched in the face once. So did I. We're best friends. Jack Dawes says, cooking is a form of art, a life-giving trade and skill. It is marketable. It is indispensable to quality communication between people, no matter the relationship. Cooking is a beautiful thing, period. It is. It's one of the very few things, like, what are the couple of things that men and women, because they're so different, what can you do together? You can eat together. You can watch movies together. You can talk together. So, and you can, bedroom stuff together. But there's very few things that men and women can really comfortably share together on the same plane. And women have been taught that, like, get rid of those, except for the bedroom. You can't talk. You're antagonistic. You don't cook or clean or do anything. So what's left? The bedroom. Why? Because you can do that with multiple men and you never have to commit. Oh, well, choose the life you want, guys. I don't know. Great Fun says, on my older video, I survived 30 years. Oh, no, this is my recent one. He says, it is very unwise to fake anything about yourself with people. You can't do it forever, and sooner or later, the mask will come off. The facade will fall, the veneer will peel away, and they will see the real you. They will feel let down, lied to, and or used, and they will resent you. Yes. Whatever relationship you had, friend or romantic, will crumble. At the very least, their esteem for you will be diminished. Be honest, speak your mind, and be your true self. If people are compatible, they might choose to associate with you and you with them. If not, you go your separate ways in peace, like two ships passing in the night. No harm, no foul. Yeah. Like, if you lie about who you are to someone and later on, like, the real you comes out, they've got every right to feel betrayed. And the same with you. If someone lied about who they are, they put on their best face, and then later they become lazier and they're not who they were before. They just kept up an act. You've got every right. You both have to be as best you can, first for yourself, and then because you value the relationship and the other person. Anthony says, the old adage of just be yourself is actually more deep than most people think. I agree. A lot of people, there's a lot of cliches because they're quick to say and they've stuck. Everyone rolls their eyes when you say it. I know that a lot of people make fun of me when I say just to be yourself. And they say, oh, this cliche, this Oprah style cliche. It's easy to remember, quick to say, but there's a lot of truth and a lot of depth if you investigate and have a conversation about being yourself in a better way. That people they just want to dismiss because it's such a well rehearsed and well said saying. But there's a lot of wisdom in just be yourself. Too many people are fake. Too many people make videos that are fake. People are always showing up as like a news reporter, showing up as a well-rehearsed chat or wanting to, thinking there's a formalized checkpoint way of being the better you by acting a certain way. So, like, here's the formula to act in this movie of life, and then you'll become the Brad Pitt. Then you'll become the celebrity. How can I become the celebrity in this life where I'm just a miserable person watching these movies, eating pizza? But then you just become a formalized person that you have to keep up the act. And most of us think, well, I'll be happy to keep up the act. It's like, no, you won't. Because you won't have permission to. Like, just think about it on a lower level, right? You start creating videos. I'm talking as a content creator, right? You create videos a certain way. You might vent or need to get something off your chest. It works, and then you have to maintain that. You have to keep making the same kind of videos the same ways, regurgitating the same 15 talking points in the same exact ways. And there's a lot of successful channels that do that, right? But the moment you color outside those lines, the moment you start talking about other things in life, everyone comes down on you, your subscriber base goes down. So you might think that there's a formalized way of being successful, but if you don't stay true to sort of where you're going in life and how you want to be, you can become a prison of your own making. And it's not success. Just because you've got fake followers and money, it doesn't mean a thing if there's nowhere for you to move. Where is it? MDM. on the last video says, I've been reflecting over the past year. I've dated more than my share of women over my lifetime. The last woman over a year ago asked me out. We never got to a first date. She ghosted me, and afterwards it gave me pause. Looking back, it revealed a pattern. 1 date here, 3 dates there, and never really gaining momentum. Always looking to find that person to build with, what has resulted in 20 plus wasted years. So I've been changing my life. Small changes, not like not having 2 glasses ready just in case I have company. Leaving room on the couch so a partner can sit, or keeping the passenger seat uncluttered just in case. I always figured I would have a partner in the battle. Now I take the beach alone. Well, good. It sounds familiar. You get tired of, trying to accommodate and be fair and whatever, and setting up your life for another person. And you always put yourself in second place. At some point, you try, but at some point you've got to change things. You really do. Where are we? Robert, he said, love without action are just empty, draining words. Both times I married, I end up being the giver and the adult to childlike women, daddy's girls. Both experiences were exhausting, draining, and stressful. Agreed. There needs to be 2 adults in a fulfilling relationship, loving each other, and both with words and actions. I have yet to see this. Yeah, again, why you get to the point where you have no fuel left in the tank to roll the dice on childish women. And guys saying, well, they're all like that, so we have to kind of make the best with the worst out there. It's like, how about I just don't go on a date with any of those? Or once I see that she's just another variation of a daddy's girl. Look, there's a line for some guys where they can accommodate daddy's girls to a very, very low level, or they like the drama. But there's a point where, like, you can't take any of it. Or I can take a little bit of princess where she doesn't bust my chops, but every now and then, she likes the romantic movie that I sit in with her. She likes flowers, like low level, girly romantic stuff. Fair enough. But how much of it? And that's another thing that you need to kind of set a bar for, and you need to be open about. The remainder says, if you look for vocational information on Christian monasteries, they always say that over a certain age, you cannot enter the community as a monastic. They argue it is because you have lived your life for so long in the world that it would be very difficult to adapt. I think this applies to the theme you discussed. This is in the older video I did about it's hard to date after you're 30. In midlife, I did a video that I think was fairly popular a couple of years ago, where I was kind of reflecting how much harder it gets when you're in midlife, in your 30s and beyond, because you become a very specific person. You live life too much. These men and women who they're on the carousel so much, you just can't pair bond anymore. You're so specific that you thought it was hard finding someone compatible and naive in your 20s. Try when you're very specific and unnaive in your 30s and 40s. It's almost impossible. So young and dumb when you're young, you can fumble around someone who might be reasonable, and you can grow together and get used to each other. But once you're no longer naive and you're past midlife, good luck. It's almost impossible to find a sensible person who hasn't been conditioned by being ran through and just having short-term relationships, who just would love the lottery win of a good relationship being thrown at them, but they just don't have the skills to do it. And a lot of these women and men who think they can have stable long-term relationships after they've just been Tindering all their whole lives, you can't. You don't have the muscles. You don't have the muscle exercise to have long-term. It's like the people who would always love to go for a run and they can never be bothered, and they're always resisting it, and they buy the runners and they think it's a good idea, but it's always Monday that they're going to start running, and they never do. At some point, you just can't anymore. Your physiology, your mind, what you find exciting, like you try and have a serious relationship when you're older and you've been Tindering for like decades, and it's boring as F. You just can't. It's a pipe dream. You realize, I've achieved what I've got the opportunity for a really good relationship, and it's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more exciting than Tinder. It's not. It's a different type of, it's a type of happiness, but it's not a type of kind of like rocket ship excitement with varied people. It's not a series of clickbait kind of Netflix movies on rotation. Ted1775 says, I just want a sensible woman who can cook. I just wanted a sensible woman. I didn't want to add too much onto you know what I expected from a woman. I just want a nice, sensible woman. Anything after that is a bonus. Animusha13 says, your own bitterness about women will only be reflected in your life. If you believe you are the victim of women, you are the victim and women are selfish and instrumental, then you will meet selfish and instrumental women. And moreover, you will also be selfish and instrumental behind the scenes, whether you like it or not. Let go of bitterness, enjoy your short ride on this beautiful planet, and I guarantee that you will meet a woman with whom you'll be happy. I don't know about the guarantee, but I'm more on your side of the leaning. I'm Minusha13. Blah, blah, blah. You'll be happy with, as well as she will be happy with you. Remember, would a bitter boy add value to her life as well, to yours if you had such a friend? Cheers. Yeah. If you're just versed in bitter feminist or manosphere rhetoric, what are you going to offer to someone? How do you come across on dates with your lexicon, with your well-rehearsed lexicon? How do you come across? Do you think that on a date with a great person, you're just going to relax and magically have a different vocabulary just come out on a date with no defensiveness? You're just going to be talking politically. And if this person doesn't talk politically, then you know you're going to be a kind of extremist manosphere person looking for a chick that's embarrassed and on the, I don't know, dysfunctionally on the opposite side of the spectrum, which is almost rare. And I don't think it's healthy anyway. I think both people need to meet in the middle as unpolitical, reasonable, normal human beings that their personalities and their ways of life are interesting. So you've got to let go of the whole politics thing and only introduce it where you want to protect yourself from an obvious person that's going to damage you politically as well, and who hasn't been raised properly, who doesn't know who they are, who don't have fair, reasonable human values. I think I've mentioned all the comments. Any last comments, guys? Let's wrap it up. We're approaching an hour and a half. I don't really like going beyond an hour, and certainly I don't like going beyond 2 hours. Otherwise, it feels like a podcast discussion, which, nice segue. Listen to this latest one on my chat channel, link below this video or in my About section on my YouTube tabs, just below the banner at the top here. Where is it? I think it's around here somewhere. Anyway, guys, have a good Sunday or Saturday night. Enjoy your weekend. Daylight savings here in Melbourne just happened today. I'm not sure if it's happening around the world as well. Click, like, subscribe, watch the videos, share them around for any of you who want to chat amongst yourselves. If you have a microphone, jump on my Gilded channel. I have a room there for you guys to chat amongst yourself and keep chatting the way you are here. And I'll catch you in the next video. Remember, join, like, subscribe, and yeah, catch you next time. Enjoy your week. Bye.